welcome to Soul Speak with Rachel. And today we have a very, very special guest, Laura Bajorek. Yay!
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Hi. Before we go into where our conversation is going to take us, I would like to give you a most proper introduction. So here we go. Laura Bajorek is a life coach from Detroit, Michigan. Okay. Her favorite thing to talk about is trauma, grief, and relationships. Her superpower is helping people heal things they never thought they could get through. Wonderful. Welcome, 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 Laura.
Thank you.
And I love that bio. I really love that. And we're gonna really dive into that. But before we do, I would like to talk about how you and I met each other.
Yes.
We met, and correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, because my memory is like all over the place. But we met, I believe, in 2017.
Yes.
It might have been the year. Okay. And we met at an Iyanla Van Zant retreat workshop. It was for a week, right? I believe it
I
was for
think it was
5 days.
5 days. Yes.
Yes. And that workshop, I forget the name of it. I
It's called
know it
the
was
rites
for
of passage.
Rites of Passage. You
Yeah.
remember Rites of Passage. And I don't know if y'all know Iyanla Van Zandt. If you don't, you could Google her real quick because, of course, she has the show or had the show. It's
Mhm.
no longer on. Iyanla Fix My Life. And we didn't get that Iyanla, but
Mhm.
Iyanla's persona, her makeup, in my opinion, is to help us to heal. So this workshop was no different. There were quite a few how do you call it? Not activities. Well, maybe
Uh,
they're activities or projects or
I would think of them like ceremonies or rituals.
yes, ceremonies and rituals. We
Mhm.
had quite a few of them
Yeah,
that
one after another.
oh
It was
after
crazy.
it was seriously a rite of passage or
Yes.
quite a few rites of passages.
Mhm.
So was it like I would say it's like it was 100 of us or
I think
so.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, Laura. And it was all women and we were broken up into our age group by decade.
Yes.
And Laura and I at the time, I'm about to give our ages away,
That's okay.
Laura.
I'm so happy to be how old I am. No worries.
Yes. We were in the age group of the 30s at the
Mhm.
time. Do the
Uh-huh.
math. Anyway, we could still be in the 30s though.
Well, not this one. I was the elder in that group.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You
So,
were the eldest, and I think I was number three.
mhm.
Yes. So, and what happened is, if this is making any sense, let me try to make sense. We chose a name for ourselves, and the thought behind these names that we chose, they were on cards, and we had to go to a table and pick a card. At the time, we didn't know that they would be our names for the week.
And we didn't
And
know what the word was
we
either.
didn't know
It
what
was
the word
completely
was.
anonymous.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we wound up. I remember what yours was,
I
Laura.
remember yours too.
So I'm gonna say yours and you say mine.
Uh-huh.
So Laura, as the leader, was Harmony,
Mhm.
and that was her name for the rest of the week.
Yeah. And yours was unconditional love.
Unconditional love. And it's so interesting because there was another
There was.
unconditional love before me. Was I number four or was I number three?
I don't remember.
Anyhow, let me not
It's
get caught
okay.
up in the, yeah. So, this experience that we had in the group was it was a bonding. It was a strong sense of bonding because we in our age groups or people in the same age groups, we tend to have similar experiences.
Mhm.
So, in our healing process in the week, we were able to really dig deeply into our traumas, our pains, our so many things. So, I'm
So
going to
many.
let you say anything you want to say about that experience, Laura, or
Everything
Harmony.
about it, yeah, everything about it was crazy to me because I knew it was going to be hard and I was signed up. I was ready.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. But what I thought was so fascinating was Iana and her team. What does she call them?
It wasn't the dream team.
No, I'll remember.
Oh
It'll
my
come to
God, I
me.
can't remember either.
Because
It
it
was
was
a
so good.
beautiful,
Yes.
yeah.
But anyway, so they were all, it was a lot of tough love. It was a lot of
Yeah.
very authoritative love, like grandma kind
Whoo.
of energy, where you
Yes.
just don't like literally take the shoe off your foot and beat you with it kind of love.
Yes. Yes.
And I'd never experienced that kind of maternal trust, where it was
Mm.
like, okay, I have to trust you. And so for
Mm-hmm.
the first couple of days, I was afraid and I was like,
Wow.
I always thought I was going to get in trouble. I always felt like I was getting in trouble. And, if you asked too many questions, they would like eyeball you and be like,
Uh-huh.
just trust me. And I
See,
was
me
like,
being a black person, that didn't scare me at all.
well,
Black
I
and
was just used
Caribbean.
to, yeah, that's fair. But I was used to like really kind of being that energy in my circle, right? Because I didn't really have a
Understood.
lot of maternal energy. And the one, I mean, when I was growing up, it was scary and very intense like that, but it
Right.
wasn't positive. It was all just really traumatizing. So
Right.
being back in it and having to trust that was so cool and really,
Mm.
really healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple ceremonies, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I really do think you've got to go do this. Like,
Definitely.
and I would hate to spoil the crazy is a
I'm
harsh
telling
word,
you,
transformative,
but
like
crazy.
out there
Yes.
kind of
There is one
what
that
just
sticks in
happened.
my
Me
mind.
too. Me too. Like when you wake up in the middle of a group on the floor and there's a
Oh,
blanket
girl,
on you and you don't know what
girl.
happened. That is just, I mean, but yeah, I get chills just thinking about it. It was transformative. It was really, I felt like a different human when I left,
Yeah.
and it was beautiful. It was just a
Yes.
beautiful experience. And I mean, I remember with you, every time I think about you, I think about her coming at you and saying, when
Girl.
I listen with my nipples. And I was like,
Yo,
oh,
yo, ooh, but I'm proud of myself because I stood up too.
yes,
But
yes.
she
She
is
really
a
saw right through
force.
you. Yes, she saw through
Yes,
it.
she
And
did.
it was beautiful
I
because
have goosebumps thinking
me
about
too.
that.
I know, but that was the thing too, is there was this, it was a moment where, like, it was so funny. I don't want to get too specific about exactly what happened because it's so private what goes on in that room.
Mm,
But it was like there was the culture, there was the like communal understanding of what this woman was expressing.
mm-hmm,
And then there was like the reality that Iana was trying to share with us of like
mm-hmm.
mindfulness and being
Right,
truly present and fully aware of not everything is about you
right.
and not everything needs to be a big social fight and not everything
Yeah,
right here we are safe and
right.
right here she's telling her truth and not yours, sister.
Yeah.
it
No,
was
really. Iyanla let me
it
have
was
it. No, she fixed my
yes,
life in that moment.
it was beautiful
It
because I
was.
still think about that. I think about that
Yeah.
every time I get myself lost in someone else's story or someone
Yeah.
else's fight without like
Me too,
being truly
actually.
mindful about it. Like there's a
Yes.
difference, you
Yeah.
can be there for someone and be fighting for them without letting it piss you off all kinds
Right.
of ways. And
Right.
it was so funny because I just remember feeling like, oh, you are in so much trouble,
Yo,
but
I
your
felt it
words.
too, but I was like, I had to do this and I was
Yes,
myself.
I was
But
proud of you.
that woman, I got to really see she is of God is how I
Yes,
felt. Like
yes.
she is not she's not doing this out of ego
No.
at all. She is with the spirits.
Yes, she is a channel. And yeah,
Yes.
she was just such a beautiful, all of her people that were
Yeah.
she had working for her were so beautiful.
Was it
And
something mamas?
Mama Danny was
Oh,
our woman. Oh,
I loved her.
I know. I
Oh
know.
my God.
She was remarkable, but everything about it was cool and it was There are only a couple people that I still talk to,
You're
but
the only one that I speak
yeah,
to.
I talk to two. And I
Okay.
just love you both so much. I get every time you do anything, I'm just like, yes, like I'm
I
just like in
love
your
that you
corner.
so cheer me on. I'm like, I love that woman. I love her. And we haven't been in
Nope,
contact physically
no.
for these almost 5 years, but the
Hmm.
level of support that's
Yes,
there, like I feel it and
yes.
I know it.
It's a connection. It's like
Yeah.
nobody's seen what we have seen in that
No,
room
the
except for the
eyes
100
have not
women.
seen. Yeah.
Right. And there's no way. I mean, I've even tried to explain, okay, so like I was birthed
Nah,
by this,
son.
and people are like, okay, I don't
Yeah.
even know what you're
It
doing.
sounds crazy and it felt crazy until the end of it. Like it just
Yes.
wasn't crazy.
Yes.
But
Until it
anything
worked.
about it sounds crazy.
Yep.
Exactly.
It was remarkable. One of the
Yeah.
things that I thought was so interesting for me that kind of launched my own understanding of the kind of trauma therapy that would be helpful for me was her very
Mm.
small touch of EMDR in the building
Mm.
when we did the eye
I
movement
remember.
activity.
Yeah.
And just that one thing, it
Mm.
changed so much of how I was like, what I was carrying. And I had
Mm.
like, I describe it, my sister and I both have it. And I know a lot of people who do have been traumatized by their parents, where it's almost like the angel devil on your shoulder type of
Mm-hmm.
narrative, except
Mm-hmm.
it's my mother. And she
Mm.
just lives there and she just takes up rent free space in my brain. And she's just
Right.
like, oh, I wouldn't have done that like that, or oh,
Right.
those towels are ugly, or whatever.
Right.
And it was like all day, like, look, my mom's watching me cut carrots. I wonder what she'd think about me cutting carrots. Meanwhile, my mother is just having her own life. She's not thinking about
Right.
me. She doesn't
Right.
care about how I'm cutting my carrots. And so in that moment, she said, I want you to think about something you'd like to just detach. And that was it.
Mm.
I just wanted to take her out of my head
Right.
and let her be right where
Right.
she was, and kind of delineate like the boundary of we're not codependent anymore. I don't even know
Right.
you. You go
Right.
do you and I'll do me.
You're grown,
And
I'm
it,
grown.
yeah, and it was like a switch, and it never there have been some moments because she
Mm-hmm.
is in my life again, and
Mm-hmm.
she hadn't been for about 25 years.
Wow.
But there have been some moments where that switch goes back and
Mm-hmm.
I recognize it right away. But it was EMDR that she was doing. And it was
Mm.
in a group of 100 people and it was still
Yeah.
that effective. And that has changed my outlook on what kind of mental health care I could use that would be really helpful to me when
Mm.
I can't, the words don't work, the
Mm-hmm.
work doesn't work, the
Mm-hmm.
praying doesn't work, the things
I
like
love
all
that.
the
The
other stuff.
work doesn't work.
Right.
Sometimes the
Sometimes it
work
just
doesn't work.
doesn't.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that.
So that was really interesting because, moving forward, whenever I find myself just fully triggered, that's when
Mm.
I'm like, you know what? I think I need some EMDR. I think I need to make an
Mm.
appointment. I need to clean it up a little bit. And that I would not have understood the value of how
Mm.
uh, fast of a treatment that is and
Mm-hmm.
how effective, because it sounds so silly. Like,
Right.
oh, just look that way for a little while you're thinking about
Right.
this thing. And then
Right.
it's amazing. And so it made me
Right.
really, from a practical standpoint, really look into brain health and
Mm.
understand like a lot of the tools that she used were so, she would go from Native American ceremony
Mm-hmm.
to like African dance ceremonies
Mm-hmm.
to EMDR to
Yeah.
like, I mean, it was just so all encompassing. And
Yeah.
it was just this like 1-2 punch. You get up at 5 in the morning, you pray, you do this, you
Yeah.
do this, like, here's your vegan food,
Right.
which she did not like, which made me laugh so hard. But, it was just it was like soul boot camp. I don't even know how to describe it.
Yes. Yes.
That was really beautiful for me.
That's a great description of it. Um, Now I want to ask you so many questions from what you just said. I'm going to ask you one and just let it go from there. So, out of curiosity, is that how you started with your coaching? Is that what sparked that? Or is that something that was already in the works before?
No, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to be when I grew
Mm.
up, even though I
Mm-hmm.
was the eldest in the 30s group.
Understood.
And so I became a mom when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of did my track backwards, right? So I was parenting. I have three kids. One's
Mm-hmm.
25, the oldest is 25, the youngest is 10. And so I kind of did that whole thing backwards. And now I have resources and time and opportunities to kind of grow
Right.
up and have a career, which
Right.
is very exciting. But I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do because I love to learn, but I really don't like traditional education. I don't like the way it
Right.
works. And I don't think it's particularly helpful.
Mm.
So when I went to this rites of passage, and then I've been to the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I started to get exposed to different people like Martha Beck, who is my teacher,
Mm.
and Iana actually does private coaching, or I don't know if
Yes.
she does anymore, but she
Right.
used to do
Right.
private coaching, and then all of her team does private coaching, and I started thinking about it from that lens of like, wait, this is my favorite thing to do. Like,
Mm.
I feel like sometimes you don't know what your passion is because it's so easy for you
Right.
that you think, well, this is too easy. Everybody can
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
realize, oh,
No.
a lot of people can't do this. Like a lot of people don't know how to sit with ugly feelings, and they don't
Right.
know how to process their stuff because they're just not a language they speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I realized how good I was at that, I was like,
Mm.
you know what? And I think it was really Mama Danny who was like,
Mm.
you have a gift. You're very good at this. And it
Mm-hmm.
made me just kind of think about it. But I hadn't really thought of it as a career that was possible until I started spending more time with Martha Beck and her philosophies. And I loved her take on things because our stories are very similar.
Okay.
And so, just early trauma and early issues and early physical, like a lot of physical health
I've
issues.
never heard of Martha Beck.
She's tremendous, and I think you would
Okay.
enjoy her very much.
Okay. I'm gonna check
Um,
her out.
she's lovely. So she has a program called the
Mm-hmm.
Wayfinder program, and
Mm-hmm.
I joined that, and I finished that up last year and was supposed to certify last year, and then COVID put a big pause
COVID
button on things.
and everybody's life, COVID.
Exactly. But
Lord.
it's been good because I've had a year to really practice. Like I'm in practice and I have clients, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
fully certified yet, which is lovely because it gives me the opportunity to know like when it's time to certify that I got this. Like there's an
Mm.
exam, and but then there's like I have to coach a master coach,
Mm-hmm.
which really
Wow.
was a fearful for me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized like I've got this. Like I've had many clients. I'm really good at what I do. I know I'm
Mm.
good. And
Mm-hmm.
I love like every time I hang up with a client, I have goosebumps. I feel energized. I just feel absolutely incredible because I
That's
know
beautiful.
that what I'm doing matters. And
Mm.
I love it. I just love it because it basically I give permission to people all day to do what their soul knows they need to do, but they didn't know
Mm.
how to say, you
Wow.
know. And so when I talk to
That's a
them, I just ask,
powerful statement.
and it's such a powerful feeling because I can
Wow.
see it right away. And
Mm-hmm.
really all it takes for me is being patient and letting them
Mm.
see it for themselves because
Mm.
within 5 minutes of talking to just about anybody, I know exactly what they're doing next eventually. Like what
Mm-hmm.
when they're brave enough, I know the step they're going to take. It's
Wow.
about opening up the gates for them and being like, all right, have you thought about it this way? What about this? Let's try this. What about this? And I never tell anybody what to do. I just get to the point where
Right.
I'm like, babe, the first 5 minutes of our conversation,
Uh-huh.
you told me what you wanted. So, you know, and they don't even know. They don't even think about it that way. And so I love it. I could do
It
it.
sounds like a miraculous process, like you're seeing a
Yes.
miracle
Yes.
unfold before your eyes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so, I have two real passions, I think. And one is childbirth and being a doula. And the
Mm.
other is life coaching and talking about hard feelings. Because
Mm.
for me, they're the same. It's like this transformational birth of a person.
Oh my
And
God, you a
it's
poet too, though.
beautiful.
You're a poet too. Go ahead.
It's just beautiful. And it's amazing because like there's a moment when a baby's being born that like
Mm.
God is in the room. There's no everyone around you is like you feel this like this is God.
Oh,
And
that's
I
so
feel the same
beautiful.
thing when someone is dying, and I feel the same thing when
Oh,
someone is
yes.
waking up. And it's
Oh my God.
beautiful. It's absolutely
Laura,
it's yeah,
you
I
have
get
taken
goosebumps
my
too.
breath away. I'm not kidding.
Oh,
Wow.
it's the best. It's the best.
Wow.
So yeah.
So now that I want you as a coach, let me ask you because we had a brief conversation before
Mhm.
this about trauma informed
Mhm.
coaching, or
Mhm.
if it's not trauma informed, it was more of um like having a broader spectrum on the different types of traumas that
Yes.
exist,
Yeah.
because trauma obviously is not a monolith of a thing.
Mhm.
And also, depending on the different cultures
Yeah.
that we come from, our traumas, I want to say, come from different sources or look a little different, even though at the bottom of everything, it just might be the same things.
Mhm.
But the channels
Yeah.
are different, not might be different, but are. So we were talking about it. Really, this is a race based conversation, I would
Mhm.
say. And where trauma comes from, as far as Black people are concerned, and that's
Mhm.
not a monolith of a thing either.
Right.
um so, what would you say, or have you encountered, or have you coached African American people of the African American diaspora or Africa?
Mhm.
And what is it that you have felt you had to learn? This is
Mhm.
a multi layered question. Hopefully, it
Yeah.
makes
You're making
sense.
me nervous.
Um, and sorry, we will unpack it together, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of what is it that you feel that you'd have to know when it
Mhm.
comes to, say, a Black person coming to you with racial trauma? Or, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good question. I have not had the privilege of coaching an African American person or a Black
Yet.
person.
Yeah.
What Not yet. And
Mm,
I'm happy to learn because I do think that there is an important approach to all people
mm,
is that what might traumatize you is going to look different, and what
right.
might be traumatizing or triggering for another person you may never have even considered because
Right.
you've got the privilege of never having to think about it something
Right.
that way. And so just really about um, careful approaching, and
Mm-hmm.
careful consideration of
Mm-hmm.
I could not pretend to understand this. So I'm not
Right.
going to be audacious enough to be like, oh, I know.
Right.
I'm woke. I've read the tweets, like
Right.
whatever.
That'll be the worst. If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, you know what?
Right.
This is our first
Right.
and last session.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
it's a little bit like when someone says, I don't have children, but I have a dog, so I get it. Right. It's like,
Son,
okay, I
please
appreciate you,
go
but you don't
away.
understand what you're saying.
Yes.
And I'm willing to be ignorant. I'm willing to be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing, actually, it's so funny. I actually have considered this many times because I have coached people of color before, and it is
Mm-hmm.
different. It's a completely different circumstance and
Mm-hmm.
experience. And what I have really understood about that, and I also have some disabled clients, and
Mm.
just to ask questions,
Right.
right? To never approach it thinking you get it,
Right.
because you don't get it. I don't care if some of my clients look just like me, same age,
Mm-hmm.
same circumstance, same everything. I
Mm-hmm.
still don't know them. I don't
Right.
know what they're thinking and what they need. And so, to really just be curious and respectful and kind and never question what someone's trauma looks like or what
Mm.
triggers them or their lived experience. I don't
Mm.
care if it makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
That's too bad. If it makes me
Right.
uncomfortable, it's probably because it's true.
Mm.
Right. So, if I have a friend, I mean, I don't have any clients of color, but yeah, when I have a friend, like I have Black friends who are very honest with me about their
Right.
experience. And I'm grateful for that because frankly, that enough is like difficult to do. I
Right.
would never, I'm going to tell you, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how I would live this world if I were a Black
Mm.
person, but I will say
Mm.
that if I were, I would not be talking to white people about it.
I hear
I'm
you.
not going to take the risk of
I
having
hear
somebody
you.
go, I get it.
Right.
Or maybe you've got a bad attitude. Maybe
Right.
have a better attitude about it. Like
Right.
the whole thing is a setup for more irritation.
Yes.
So
And trauma.
so I personally, it would be a privilege to be able to coach any person with a different experience than me. But I'm
That's
never
beautiful.
going to assume that I have the right for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me, you can't have me. I will,
Mhm.
but I will not, I would never be like, you know what, I need more clients of color, or I need, okay.
Mhm.
I mean, if
Mhm.
I'm lucky enough, if I've earned that trust, cool. If I haven't, I've got my work to do. It's not,
Mm.
so I will say at this time, no, I have not had the privilege, and I am okay with that, because
Right.
frankly, I would not expect any black person to be like, I think I need a white life coach.
Nah, no, but that's the I hear what you're saying.
I know you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But you are inherently everything that I've known about you is beautiful.
Well,
I
you're sweet.
know there are different aspects of
Mhm.
us.
Yeah,
Obviously, we are not all beautiful all the time,
sure.
but inside, outside, you are beautiful, and your intention is always to be better or healing. I feel
Mhm.
that about you. I will say I know that about you just
Mhm.
because of just how I vibe you.
Yeah.
So that's number one. The second thing that I really appreciate about your approach is a thing that used to even bother me in corporate America, where it's like you got to act like you know.
Mhm.
You can't let anybody know that you don't know. And
Yeah.
people used to tell me that because my favorite thing to say was, I don't know something.
Mhm.
That was my favorite because I find when I do that, I open up just the rivers of information coming forward to me. People want to tell me,
Mhm.
I find different avenues of learning.
Mhm.
So that to me is such a great approach that people really should take on more, as
Mhm.
far as you not knowing,
Yeah.
because how I receive it is that it's a curiosity, right?
Mhm.
Because first, you're not gonna know. If
No.
somebody is saying that, they know my experience, that already comes off as
Right.
unsafe. You
They
lie.
already don't see you. They don't see you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that open curiosity about
Mhm.
wanting to get to know me
Mhm.
is beautiful. And also, you don't have to obviously be a part of my experience to be able to help me, because
Yeah.
there are certain things that are just principles,
Yeah.
that work in damn near every situation or every situation.
Mhm.
But the unpacking and finding the root is the thing that's I find is so important.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to say something else because I feel like I talk in, how do you call it, unending sentences,
It's
and
okay.
that's
It's the
just
best
my
people
style.
do. It's okay.
Then I am the best
Yes,
person.
you are.
um, so I've had experiences with different types of therapists.
Mhm.
And starting, I had a great therapist for like 5 years. She was amazing. And what I recognize now is she was more of a coach
Mm.
than a therapist, which was amazing. She the thoughts and ideas and visions that she planted within me, which I had no idea. But based on what you said, she didn't plant them in me.
Yeah,
They
you
were
had them.
already
Yeah.
there and she brought them forward.
All right.
But she gave me the courage to even do poetry, stand
Mhm.
up poetry. She's the one who first encouraged me to do that. And I was like, why do I want to do that? And, express my deepest vulnerabilities in front of people. And here, this is what I'm doing
Yeah.
like 8 years later. So I had her, and that was in Jamaica. I lived in Jamaica at the time. I met her there. She was amazing, amazing. When I came over here, like a couple of years ago, when the trauma, like I became ready to
Mhm.
face my trauma and actually be released from it, I noticed that she was no longer the person that could help me get over that hurdle. It
Mhm.
was very interesting. It was uncomfortable. But I knew it wasn't her. So I went on to find a trauma therapist, or someone who I thought was a trauma therapist, but really, she gave me some helpful tools, but she really wasn't a trauma therapist, so to speak.
Mhm.
But I looked for someone who was African American.
Mhm.
And that was a thing that I wanted to do, I guess, because I had already had the experience, even though my first long-term therapist was, she was Jamaican, not African
Mhm.
American, but she was Black.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed is that it is important not only to look for the same type of person as you.
Mhm.
I do think there are some issues that you can fall into if you are, that human has some experiences that are similar to yours. So
Mhm.
there are some same ways that you look at some issues where you might need an outside or a
Mhm.
different way of looking at something. And
Absolutely.
I have found I actually now have a white man therapist,
Mhm.
and I was like, when they told me he was a white male, I was like, I don't know. We in a society right now. White
Right.
male
Mm.
is not the favorite thing right now. They are quite passe.
Mhm.
Um, but I felt this energy in me. I was like, let me try him anyway.
Absolutely.
Cause I
Because
can
I
I
it
have a
for
choice. Go ahead,
yeah,
Laura.
and for every hurdle and every obstacle you're trying to clean up, there's a
Mm-hmm.
different teacher for that. So,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love
sometimes you
that.
do need a teacher who looks just like you and has a very similar lived experience because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have it in you to explain yourself. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that, if you have somebody that is the same race, the same gender, the
Mm-hmm.
same age ish, you can relate in a way that's like, yeah, you get it. I don't have
Yeah.
to start from scratch to explain my trauma, explain, like, you've got your individual trauma, but you don't have to explain your cultural trauma. You don't
Right.
have to explain your gender trauma, all
Right.
of that stuff.
Right.
But, and that's great.
Mhm.
Once you pass that hurdle, though, there is a point where
Mm.
it's like, I'm going to need a trickier teacher. I'm going to need,
Mhm.
I have a healthcare professional on my team now who is a
Mhm.
young man, which is
Mm.
not something I would ever have chosen. But I was like, you know what? My body needs to learn how to trust a young man. That is
Mm.
really crucial. And at first it was super uncomfortable. And now that it's
Mhm.
happened, I was like, this is more helpful than I expected it to be.
Mm.
And it's therapeutic to teach yourself that
Mm.
you're okay to trust yourself and you can trust your own instincts. And so to say, all right, well, this particular white man is going to heal me, help me heal
You're right.
and be the right teacher at the right time. And sometimes
Yeah.
that teacher looks so different than you thought.
So different.
Yeah, but that's sometimes the beauty of it. And
Yes.
I mean, when I was a little girl, my teacher was Oprah. I'm sure that's true for
I love
so many
Oprah.
women my
Oh
age.
my God.
She was my mother. I mean, I seriously do feel
Mm.
mothered by her. And every day
Mhm.
at 4 o'clock, she was like
4 o'clock.
there to show me my, how to do all kinds of things,
Yeah,
like
it's
deep feelings, but
true.
also how to make, smoothies. I mean, she was like a mom to me.
Yeah.
And so my comfort zone has always been with older Black women. That's been like, for
Mm.
me, that's like my mother energy comes from an older Black woman. And
Oh, that's
so for
beautiful.
me, like, there's been interesting times where meeting with like an old white man is so terrifying to me,
Mm.
or an older white woman. It's just
Right.
too triggery. And
Mhm.
that's when I'm like, you know what? I think maybe I need to do that. Each
Mm.
teacher, each event needs a different teacher. And there are going to be times when, you just don't have it in you to be
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'll go so far out of my comfort zone. Like sometimes
Right.
just talking to somebody is outside your comfort zone. So you
It's
pick
true.
someone as close to you as possible.
Right.
But then there are some times where that boundary is a little loose, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of projecting, you
Yes.
know? There's
That
like,
is what
oh,
I
I
had
get it.
started to
Yeah.
experience.
Yes. And
Yeah.
you're like, well, but maybe you don't
Yeah,
get
you're
it.
not yeah, you don't.
Right.
Or you're looking at me from your own
Mhm.
vision, and you're not
Mhm.
seeing me, or maybe you actually don't have the tools, is what I saw it as.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have the tool anymore to help
Right.
me to where I need to go.
Right, which is not a knock on her in any way,
Yeah,
because it
no,
sounds like
not at
she
all.
was the perfect person for you for
Yeah.
one step, and
Right.
then you elevate and you're like, all right, you get hungry for a new teacher. And then
Yes.
you elevate and that teacher, and that's really the point, right? We're
Yeah.
supposed to, I mean, just in general conventional school, you
Mhm.
elevate, you
Right.
outgrow your kindergarten teacher, hopefully by,
Hopefully.
first grade. you know,
Hopefully.
but every one of those teachers is so valuable for that period.
Yes.
So I am a big fan of moving on. I've
Yeah.
had some clients who have been really afraid, and I'm like,
Uh.
listen, we can't work together more than a year. Like, can you come back to
Mm.
me if you ever need
Right.
to come back to me? After a year, we're just playing around.
I
Like,
love that.
it's time for you to launch. It's
I
you don't need
love
me.
that. I
You know.
have had some awkward situations
hmm
where it came to letting go of therapists.
yeah, me
And
too.
I'm and in my I don't know if this is the appropriate way to look at it, but I tend to put therapists on a pedestal when it
hmm
comes to emotional intelligence.
hmm
I just like a preacher or a teacher, like there's an area that you are skilled
Yeah.
at, and it may be something that I take quite too much literally,
hmm
but I have a high expectation where that is concerned. And
hmm
I found the experiences that I had with letting go of therapists, they were lacking. Like for me, I thought it would be an experience where, yes, you have grown, you have
Yes.
moved on. It is a natural part of life, like you said.
Yeah.
And that was not my experience.
Mine either.
And
No,
I
and
was
I
like,
yeah.
yeah,
And I
go
don't know what
ahead.
that's all about. I don't know because
The
I'm
F?
not a yeah, I
Yo,
know.
I was
Like, you're not
pissed.
supposed to make this weird for me. Right.
Exactly.
Right. I don't know what that's all about either.
Son.
I'm not a therapist, and so
Uh-huh.
I can't speak for therapists. I have had
Right.
one therapist that was excellent at that and could
Mm-hmm.
really be very clear, like, we've crossed these hurdles, and at this point, unless you want to work on something specific and different, I think you're good for now, and then you should come back to
Right.
me if you need me. And that's where I got that model for
Mm-hmm.
for really giving permission, because if you don't give there's an implied authority. If someone's paying
Yes,
me
there
and
is.
someone's
There
calling
is.
me something like life coach, or
Right.
that there's an implied authority, and I have to
Yeah.
respect that. And
Yeah.
that is it's my job to make that easier for people to know,
Yeah. I
like,
love that.
because I've been there and it is
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. I've had to
Mm-hmm.
fire doctors and
Mm-hmm.
therapists, and it's never personal. It's just, I've outgrown you because you did your
Yes.
job.
Yes. You
So
did a
why make it
great job.
weird? It should be like
Yes.
here's your certificate as being an excellent therapist, because I
Yes.
feel ready to go somewhere else. Like,
Yes.
that's good. That's good news. So yeah, I learned that from one in particular that really gave me that kind of language, and I really appreciate it, because I've had others that, especially if you were going to a therapist for anxiety or PTSD and things like that, you don't it's so terrifying to say to someone with
Hello, I have
authority.
issues with this
Exactly.
area.
So then you're wasting time, and you're
Yeah.
locked up, and you can't.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's a waste of time. It's like 3 sessions that you didn't have to pay for because
Well,
you're like, I think I've outgrown this.
I was at this point, although I felt like the awkwardness of it,
hmm
there is a feeling when you've outgrown something.
Absolutely.
It is, how can I say it? It's a mourning, it's a grieving, it's
hmm
the vibration of it is low.
hmm
And I know like I have to let it go. Like this is
Yeah.
now a death.
Yeah.
So that feeling is there, and it's something I never looked at really with other relationships. So this is a great learning tool actually, because like I was married, that
hmm
thing done died years
Yes.
before that
Yes.
I let it go on. That's not something I would do now.
Yes.
But
Yeah. Time of death, 2008.
yo, son, bye,
Bad.
deuces, gotta go.
Right. Right.
Oh my God. So I have become skilled in this
hmm
area where when that death is happening or the
hmm
decomposing, I feel it.
Yes.
So I took a step back because this was going to be my first time ever doing this with a therapist.
hmm
And I needed to step back because I have issues, abandonment issues,
Yeah.
right? And I have how do you call that? That anxious attachment.
hmm
So it's not easy for me to actually let go
Mhm.
until something is exploding,
Yeah, it's gotta
right?
get real, real
It's
bad.
and I was like, nope, I know it's time to go. How do I handle it? So I learned to step back, and
Mhm.
in that time I looked for another therapist because there was also a money aspect to the
Mhm.
change,
Mhm.
and I needed the original therapist that I had. There was no insurance with her,
Mhm.
so that it was pretty costly out of
Yeah.
pocket. So there were a lot of things to consider.
Mhm.
But when I did finally have all my ducks in a row, I was going to reach out to her. She wound up reaching out to me first, but I thanked her in the biggest way because this woman has helped me really change the
Mhm.
face of my life. She
Yeah.
really has. And her response to me was so lackluster. My
No.
feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
They really,
Yeah.
really were. But
Well, yeah, you
I
want that mama bird moment where
yes,
it's
that's
like,
what I
"I'm so proud of
did.
you, and it's been such a
Yes.
pleasure," and
Yes.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was so hurt by that.
Mhm.
And I do know that life is also learning how to deal with disappointments and
Mhm.
knowing that there are just some things that aren't about me. That wasn't about me because
Mhm.
for me, if it were me, my reaction would have been different, but
Mhm.
it wasn't about me. It had to do with her.
Yeah.
And in the letting go, there was work there as well, which was
Right.
interesting. Like the work wasn't just with her, the work was also letting her go and then letting the other person go because I am an anxious attachment person,
Mhm.
but that is really being cured real fast with these people that I have to let go in my life.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, and it's all part of the whole thing. It's, it's deciding when to move on from one
yeah,
teacher to the next is such a huge part of the growth.
yeah,
It's the probably the most uncomfortable. Um,
yeah,
but
depending
it's
on the
so
teacher.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people can make it more comfortable if they were,
Yo.
if they were willing. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is such an important part. And there is a distinct difference too, and you can start to feel it as you heal. That
Mm,
there's the difference between my mental illness is actually keeping me from wanting to open up to this person. So,
yes.
making the appointments feel like,
Yeah.
I might cancel on you last minute. That's
Yeah.
anxiety. That's mental illness. It's a
Yeah.
difference between knowing, all right, I just feel it lands different in your body,
Yeah, it
and you
does.
just sort of feel it wherever you tend. I mean, everybody feels it differently. For me, it's like pit of the stomach kind of feeling
Yeah.
where I just feel like this is not right for me.
Yeah.
If I'm anxious about it and I know like, okay, this is really just um I need to see this person
Right.
because I want to cancel.
Right.
Right. That
Right.
lands different. That's more in my
Yes.
chest. I get more
Yeah.
like butterfly type of feelings.
Mm.
And trying to just trust yourself to know the difference and know, because I think too when you have mental illness, it
Mhm.
is really hard to trust yourself. If
Mm. Yes.
it's so hard. And
Absolutely.
so,
Yes. Because you
and
don't know
that's
who's
where,
talking. If it's the
yeah.
trauma, if it's your intuition.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's where a really good therapist should be helping you talk you through that kind of stuff
Right.
and help you see the difference.
Right.
And if your therapist isn't helping you figure out when to launch,
Mm.
they might be too entangled in your stuff.
Yeah.
That might be their
There's work
ego.
for them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, not to knock them because therapists do such
Definitely not.
beautiful work and they are
Yeah.
human, I mean,
Yes.
there are
That's
moments,
another thing I had to understand.
yeah.
Just like when you learn your mother is a person, it's
Right.
like just like, oh,
Oh,
she could
damn
be
it.
petty too. Like
Mhm.
it really,
Mhm.
yeah, it threw me for a loop, but I get it. You were saying they're also human. I kind of cut
Yeah.
you off there.
Oh, no, it's okay. They just, I think that everybody has their thing. Like, as a coach, I will have, most of my calls are really great because I can channel something else. Like you said with
Mm,
Iyanla, she's channeling something else. She
mm-hmm.
still has her petty bullshit moments,
Yes,
but
she
not when
does.
she's at work, right?
Uh-uh.
Like
You're
she
so
understands,
right.
but there is
Yeah.
still there are moments, and I'll
Yeah.
see them. I can feel them when I'm coaching somebody. If
Mm.
something's too close to my own trauma, I have to take a step back and kind of just check in with my higher self. If
I
I'm like,
love that.
oh, like I lowered my own frequency
Uh-huh.
here to say something that was not helpful to you. I was
Yeah.
just speaking from my ego. And
Yeah.
that I can feel that the second it happens. And if
Yeah.
I were to let it ride, it would be a terrible call. It would not be
Yeah.
helpful. It would be, and I've had a couple of those where you're like, oof, that was a C minus effort. But I think, as the busier you get as a therapist, I can imagine there'd be days, where
Yeah.
you're just not great.
Yeah.
you
I
know.
and like you said, you're human. It's
hmm
interesting how you described the feeling of when your ego comes in
hmm
your work, because I do not have any clients,
hmm
so to speak, but when I'm having a conversation with my friend and they're venting,
hmm
I have found, like, I've discovered within myself that there is a part of me that I like to fix
Oh
things
yeah.
and fix people.
Yeah.
And that has not served me particularly well in my life, even though my intentions were good. And that took
hmm
me years to be
Yeah.
able to separate the intentions,
Yes.
man.
Yes.
So there is a time, because I've become more aware of it maybe in the past year or so.
Mhm.
There is a time in a conversation where I feel like I don't know exactly how to describe it, but there's this anxiety of
Mhm.
wanting to spit out a thing that, like, it's like, I know. It's like
Mhm.
something like that. I know, me, pick me. And
Yeah.
and I have to bring myself
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
and understand that it's not about me.
Mhm.
And even though I wouldn't say that is something that's cured within me, when I
Mhm.
do feel that, I stay quiet and take a
Yes.
step back. It is not the time to speak.
Congratulations for
Thank,
learning that.
thank you. Because I would feel like the person would get quiet, or like
Mhm.
whatever I said did not land how
Yeah,
I
and you feel it.
anticipated. Yeah, so I'm
Mhm.
like, I have to take a step back. So it's
Mhm.
interesting that you've described it as that. So that's
Mhm.
something that gives me more language with
I
what's going
have
on with me.
Yeah, I have a saying in my head that I use. Well, I have two actually.
Mm-hmm.
With my children, it's a faster, more effective way. I will
Mm-hmm.
find myself if I find myself talking to myself instead of them because I'm trying to
Mm.
serve a need or I'm trying to fill a
That's a
void or whatever,
word.
I will say to myself, my mantra is shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And it's so it sounds so
Like a cuckoo
self-deprecating, but it's
bird.
very effective. And then when I'm at work, because I'm a
Uh-huh.
grown up, I don't swear in my head at work.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with the client, what I imagine is like my 7-year-old self in class being like,
Mm.
ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yes,
I
like,
know, I
ooh,
know the answer. She needs to
yes,
get a divorce.
yes.
Right. And so when I
That's
find
so
myself
good.
doing that, I have like
Uh-huh.
my higher self steps in like a teacher and I put my hand on that little girl's shoulder and I say, that's not
Ah.
love. That's not
Mm,
love. Because when I think about it, like I've
mm.
heard so many different thought leaders and spiritual
Mhm,
teachers and stuff to say it this way, and
mhm.
it's really helpful to me to remember that if you take someone's struggle from them, you're hurting
Mm.
them, you're not loving them, right? So if somebody is in
Love
pain and they come
that.
to you with their pain and you go, oh well, have you tried blah blah blah, or oh, let me get on the phone and solve your problem, like
Yeah.
I can't believe you're having trouble with that. It not only is it super self-serving and
Mm.
superior behavior because
Mm.
you're operating from this sense of like your problems are smaller than me. I
Mm.
got
My
this.
goodness, girl.
So what I do instead is I try to remind myself inside, like that is not love. If you love this
Mm.
person, you will let them struggle and figure it out and just be there. Don't judge them because honestly,
Mm.
stepping in to solve someone's problem without them asking you to is a judgment and it's not
Mm.
kind,
You is
to be
preaching
like, oh,
words. No,
well, there's
seriously.
just this like inherent suggestion that like, oh, I'm just smarter than you. I'm better than you. I have this more figured out than you. I can do this,
Wow, it's true.
and it's
I've
not
done
kind.
that. I
Me
have
too.
done that.
Me too. Me too.
Wow.
I've put money and time and energy and solutions into people who did not
Yeah.
need it or ask for me
No,
to do it.
no.
And it never really feels great. You know, it
Yeah.
turns out that it's actually kind of abusive and it's not
Yeah.
loving. Um,
Absolutely.
so I just remember that that's not love, you know,
Yeah.
and if it's not love, I'm not doing it. I don't,
Right.
that's just not that. All of that is a waste of my time now. I'm
Wow.
42. I don't have time to waste.
I hear you. And it's
So,
so
I
true.
just try to
I have
remember
enough
that.
of my own shit going on
Absolutely.
basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it is a distraction too. Like if you're
Yes.
feeling, a little, I don't know, not in, in integrity and not in
Right.
alignment with your own values or if something just isn't right for you, you're feeling duplicitous in any way, then when someone comes at you with a problem you've already solved in your life or you might have an
Yeah.
idea for, it's
Uh-huh.
so tempting to be like, ooh,
Yes.
ooh, that's delicious. I can put my stuff down and I can do your
Yeah,
stuff
it's so
because,
true.
you're stupid and I'm
Yeah.
brilliant. It's a drug. I mean, it's just such a gross
So
way to
let me
be.
ask you, Laura, this really like takes me to so many directions because this is an area where I've been developing in, but it's not completely resolved for me. So
Uh-huh.
then what happens when you do have a friend who is venting
Mhm.
and what happens? Because I still find myself, I'm like, all right, sometimes I don't say anything and
Mhm.
I do listen.
Mhm.
Sometimes I ask, would you like a suggestion? But what would you suggest? Because I think in the end, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to not say anything if I can help this person.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I need help when I'm asking for or when I'm venting. And I don't like when people just say, I've heard people say it'll be okay. Like they placate me.
Uh-huh.
I don't like that. But
Yeah, no,
sometimes I
absolutely
don't
not.
want advice, but sometimes I need it. So,
Yeah.
how do you suggest,
Yeah.
if you have any
Well,
suggestions?
you know what? I have a
This is an area of issue for me, if you can't
Yeah,
tell.
well, and I will tell you, if you think you're gonna clean this up ever in your life, you're so cute. It's never gonna happen. You are always gonna be, working on this because this
Uh
is just
huh.
there is no point where you have arrived. Like you will always be doing this work for your whole
Mm
life. But when it comes to that temptation of solving a problem,
hmm. Mm hmm.
um, first I ask, are you asking for help?
Got
Like
it.
what do you need
Yeah.
from me right now?
Yes.
And a lot of times no one knows what they need until they need
Yes.
it, till the
That's so
second they need it.
true.
And so sometimes I will say, basically just keep talking, tell me more about that. Why do you feel that
Mm.
way? What,
Mm.
you know, and just let them solve their own problem, because what I find, I mean, my sweet loving husband doesn't
Mm hmm.
quite know this yet. He's
Mm
getting better
hmm.
at it every year.
Mm hmm.
But if I'm complaining, I just need to say it out loud so that it's basically like, hey, can you please be a vessel for me to work out my
Mm.
stuff so I can see my own bullshit out
Mm-hmm.
loud?
I
That'd be
love
great.
that.
Right? If you're talking with somebody who isn't using you for that, who isn't asking for that, they're going to ask you for help. Right? I mean,
Mm.
I have never not helped somebody who asked me for help.
Right.
But what I've stopped doing is helping someone preemptively because
Right.
I don't want to be uncomfortable anymore. I don't want to
Right.
sit in their discomfort because it's
Right.
too bad, right? And you also have to honor your own boundary. If there are times when you don't have the space to be that uncomfortable, you got to say it. You got to say,
I was
I
gonna
want to be here
ask
for you,
you.
but I'm not prepared for that right now, you know?
So, what happens if it's a person that complains about the same thing constantly? I don't have the capacity for that. I have
Yeah.
found.
Uh,
Um.
you know, I don't I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of relationships like that anymore
I
because I don't
end
have the
them.
space for them.
Yes, I ended
Yes.
them.
I don't have the space for them, but I will
Okay.
say, if with family, people you can't dump.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If occasionally that happens, what I really try to do is honor their feelings and understand, like, this is the best they could do right now. This is where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just validate it and say, man, that sounds like it's terrible.
Got it.
That's it.
Got
And
it.
because I think that what I've noticed with people who complain a lot,
Mm-hmm.
they want to be heard. They want to be seen. They
Yeah.
complain so much because somewhere along the line, whether it's in their current life or when they were little tiny people, they did
Mm-hmm.
not get seen. And so when you
Yeah.
see them and just
Yeah.
give them that moment, really absorb it, just let them do it.
Yeah.
They may complain a little less just because they
Mhm.
feel validated, but if they
Mm.
don't, there is a point where you can just be honest and say, I see this pattern of you always feeling this way, and I'm
Mhm.
wondering what that's all about. And just let them
Mm.
figure it out, but to really be willing to sit in the discomfort, to be a little confrontational, to
Yeah.
be, respectfully honest,
Yeah.
where it's
I've
like,
done that.
you
Yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
And to just honestly say, I don't really have the space for this.
Yeah.
I don't know what you need from me, but I will ask, I'll ask, I have a, close to teenage daughter. She's 12, and
Mhm.
she's a little whirlwind of feelings. And what
Mhm.
I've learned from her, the sentence that helps instead of making everything worse,
Mhm.
is I say, is there anything I can do for you that won't make it worse? And then it gives her a minute.
Oh,
I read that in a book. I think I
I
read it in
love
Untangled. This
that.
beautiful book about raising daughters. And
Oh my
it
God. I'm
works.
gonna use that.
It's so helpful. And I can't
Oh.
remember who wrote that book, but they're wonderful. But she it gives her a second. Like she just takes a breath and she's just like, I don't know what would make this not worse, right? Because
Yeah.
making it better sometimes doesn't feel like an option. And,
Yeah.
you know, and as a grown woman, I look at my little peanut with this really
Mhm.
very privileged, spectacular life, and she's just like, oh, everything sucks, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
Yeah.
but for her,
Uh-huh.
she's telling me the truth. I
For
mean, it
her,
sucks.
yes.
So, to just honor the suck and be like,
Yeah.
man, tell me everything that sucks.
Yeah.
Um, with my clients, the first thing I do, in at least the first three calls, just to see patterns, is I say, what sucks? What sucks? We
I
don't,
love
I don't want to,
that.
don't tell me everything that's great,
Uh-huh.
because that whole toxic, everything's great, I'm fine,
Yeah.
oh, God willing, let's, just be grateful for everything. I appreciate
Yeah.
gratitude,
Yeah.
but we don't have a lot of spaces where we're allowed to just bitch,
Yes, I agree.
and so to be the kind of friend that allows somebody to just be in a shitty place is really
Mhm.
kind, but you also get to
Mm.
pick your friends. So if
Right.
you have a friend, well, an acquaintance that's not really someone you that lifts you up and makes you feel like a better
Like
person,
if this
you
is a
don't have to listen to
constant,
that. Yeah,
yes.
no, you get to say no, thank you anytime.
Yes. I
you know,
agree. That was absolutely beautiful. You gave me a bunch of tools there. Just in case you didn't know, that really, really was helpful. And
Thank
in
you.
what you said, I recognize that in the past, I've been that person
Yeah,
who
we've all
complains.
been that person.
I've been that person.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me some clarity, some grace as
Mm-hmm.
well, and
Exactly.
remove judgment on my end of, oh, these friends who I've
Mm-hmm.
had who've complained. I've been that person as well.
Yeah.
So,
And you remember what you needed,
yeah,
you know.
that
And you
was
get to choose if
absolutely
you want to give
beautiful.
that or not, but
Yeah.
to know that it's never intentional. No one's ever trying to, well, I want to say that no one's ever trying to be a one-way street or
Yeah.
drain you or be a,
Yeah.
an energy vampire, but some people are just in a terrible spot and they
Yeah.
really need to be held with grace and respected for the awful time that they're feeling. Because I think when everyone around you tells you like, "Oh, just have a better attitude about it," it
Yeah.
makes it. I think it delays the healing and the
It
process of
does.
like
It
moving
really
forward
does.
and
'Cause it
being grateful.
invalidates it.
Yeah.
Like I remember in the past where I was told, I can't stand these words, get over your past,
Mm.
like
Mm-hmm.
and anyway, I've spoken about manifesting and all of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like people have these rules as to what ought to be done in life,
Mm-hmm.
but then say you take them up on it and ask them, well, how?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to really
No,
follow that up.
no. And I think the
Okay?
term get over is such a funny visual of like literally jumping over
Get
the
oh
ugly
yes.
parts.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work. It will
No.
just keep happening. Like you can
Yes.
pretend, but you're going to
Absolutely.
find yourself in these awful patterns,
Yes.
uh, you
So
know.
I mean here whenever now I think of people who say get over
Mhm.
your past, those are the very people I know have not gotten over their
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
That really is telltale
Yes, if someone
about
says that to me,
you.
I feel it in
That's
my
like,
bones. I'm like,
yeah, it's
"Oh,
like
honey, I'm so sorry."
you're not over your past.
Yeah, you are in a lot of pain.
Yes, you are. I read this book, or I'm reading this book. It's a really tough book to read, but it's excellent. It's called The Trauma of Remaining.
Mm,
And what you said has really got me thinking about this book in the aspect of sometimes someone just needs to hear you, to for you to be a witness of
mhm.
what sucks for them,
Yeah.
because so much in this society, it's so much about not facing things directly,
Mhm,
getting over whatever it is, getting
mhm,
over so you can hurry up and get to whatever it is that's the next thing you're
mhm.
really supposed to be focused on. We don't have enough of people witnessing
Yeah.
us uh in our traumatic moments and
Yes.
needing to grieve and mourn and
Yes.
be uncomfortable with you in those times.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing what I'm hearing of you is that you're a spectacular witness.
Well, I
Is
try not to get in the shit with them, right? So, like,
right.
having the boundary of not exhausting myself, because then you
Right.
get resentful, and that's on you. Like, if you don't have
Right.
good boundaries, if you're kind of codependent,
Yeah.
every time someone's having a sucky time and they tell you about it, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're having a sucky time.
Right.
That is a good indication that you might want to do some work, right?
Right.
So if someone's wading through the shit though, it's a
Mhm.
very lonely process. So I'm gonna be on
Mm,
the side with a glass of water and a towel
right.
because
Witnessing. Yeah.
because
Cheering
I
you
know it
on.
sucks, but I know you can do
Uh,
it, and I'm not gonna try to rush you through it because I'm uncomfortable. That's a weird response. And it's
yeah.
just not loving. It's just
Yeah.
not, and I had to learn that the hard way. I mean, it's not like I grew up thinking that. I
Yeah,
had to
me either.
be a savior about 75,000 times before I was like,
Ye-
"Ooh, I might be an asshole."
Yeah.
Like I might not be awesome.
Yes, and I'm also not really focusing on myself,
Right.
so I'm not doing myself a service either.
Right. So that at
Yeah.
any given moment, I might explode because I'm still traumatized too. So I have all this stuff that's just going to come up the second you don't appreciate everything I've done for you, and
Right. Right.
it's a weird cycle. And it is,
Yes.
I think the 40s, that's what I'm loving about the 40s is that
Uh-huh.
whole, like, you know what, this is heavy. I'm putting this down. I'm not,
Yes.
I'm not doing this anymore.
Agreed.
It's,
Yes.
it's a
I
process.
don't have I find in my 40s, as soon as I hit 40, I had no time for bullshit.
Yeah.
And it happened in 2020 anyway. And 2020 just was like, I ain't got no time for bullshit. So it was amplified on steroids.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Laura, I have to say, this was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. This is fun.
I really can see the spirituality that you bring. Like, it is not just you who's doing this coaching. Um, and I can already see that you're a spectacular coach. Like, you don't
Thank
have to tell
you.
me. Hopefully
Oh,
that doesn't pressure you.
no,
Um,
I actually, I know
yeah,
I'm really good at it.
yeah. No,
Thank you.
seriously, you have given me some tools indirectly
Yeah.
in this whole conversation. So I just wanted you to put in every plug that you have, so that someone that's listening to this can seek your services. If you have space, that is. I don't know if you have
Oh,
space,
sure. I have
but
space.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
You can find me on
please.
Instagram
Mm-hmm.
at Coach Laura. My name is Laurah, Coach Laura on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. And on Facebook, I'm at Radical Freedom Life Coaching.
Okay.
My name is Laura Bajorek, Laura with an H.
Okay.
And you can Google me, you can find me, and send me a message, and we can talk. And
And you definitely you do Zoom and all of that
yep,
internet
I will do.
coaching
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay, it has been a pleasure. I have learned
Thank
so
you.
much, and hopefully at some point you return to the
Yes,
show. Thank you so much for your
thank you.
presence, and talk to you next time. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.